Cocoa Ice by Diana Applebaum. Pictures by Holly Mead. Cocoa. Chocolate comes from a faraway island where birds have pink feathers, leaves grow bigger than I am tall, and it is always summer. Children who live on the island never have to wear boots or clean ashes from the stove, because winter never comes. Best of all, on the island of always summer, chocolate grows on trees. The island where chocolate grows on trees is called Santo Domingo, and I know all about it because Uncle Jacob sails there on a trading schooner. Once, he brought home a seashell for the mantel shelf. Inside, it is pink and smoother than anything in the world. If you hold it to your ear, it whispers, "Summer, summer, summer." Early morning is the best time to climb a tree because the sun has not yet had time to bake the earth until it is hot and steamy like a roasted plantain. If you wait until afternoon, rain will make the trees too slippery to climb. But if you get up while the birds are looking for their breakfast and sit absolutely still, one may come so close that you can feel its feathers ruffle the air. Still, the main reason why morning is the best time to climb to the top of a very tall tree is that if a schooner comes into the bay, you will be the first to see it. We have every kind of tree around our house: coconut, papaya, mango, orange, banana, plantain, breadfruit, guava, and a special kind called cacao. Trees that grow chocolate. Cacao trees grow only in shade, so Papa plants young cacaos under tall banana trees that shade the growing cacao. Little pink cacao flowers grow right on the trunk. Green cacao pods grow side by side with the flowers, and next to them grow ripe yellow and red pods, ready to be picked. A cacao tree is always blooming, always ripening, and always ready to harvest. Papa splits the ripe cacao pods open with his machete and scoops out white pulp and pale beans. We spread slippery beans and sticky sweet pulp on a carpet of banana leaves, then cover everything with more banana leaves. I like to eat the sweet cacao pulp while we work, but I don't chew the beans. Once I bit a fresh cocoa bean. It was so bitter, it set my teeth on edge. Papa laughed and said, "Don't be so impatient, little one. Wait for the sun to make chocolate." And it does. After a few hot days under the banana leaves, the pale, bitter cocoa beans begin to change color. We pick beans out of the old, smelly pulp and spread them to dry in the sun, turning them until they become a dark, beautiful brown. Today, the cocoa beans are drying. There is no work to do in the garden, and Papa says we're going conking. Mama wraps cassave bread in banana leaves and packs it in a basket with guavas for our lunch. It's hot paddling down the river San Juan, and we have a long way to go because the river reaches the sea. We must paddle along the beach until we reach a cove sheltered from ocean waves. I'm tired and thirsty when we finally pull the canoe onto the beach, so Papa opens coconuts and we drink their sweet milk. Now it's time to hunt for conchs. I push my basket into the water and wade out until slippery leaves of turtle grass brush against my legs. Conchs are hiding in the turtle grass. Swimming slowly, I push the grass aside. Conchs look a lot like mossy rocks when they stand still, but I'll catch one if it hops. Something moves under the grass. I dive for it, surfacing with a conch, and looking for Papa to show him my catch. But as I reach to put my prize in the basket, a big red claw reaches for me. I squeal and drop the fierce shell. It's only a hermit crab, but I want conchs, not hermit crabs. Mama lets me have the shells after she steams the conchs and picks the meat out for chowder. I line them up in the sunny clearing where we dry cocoa beans. After they have sat in the sun for a few days, I can brush off the sea moss that made the shells look like dull green rocks in the turtle grass and see them glisten in the sunshine. Inside, they are pink like cocoa flowers, but smooth and shiny even after they're dry. Our beans are not chocolate yet. They are only cocoa beans, and we must turn them every day until they are dry. Mama roasts them over a hot fire until they begin to smell like chocolate. Then she lets me put them in the mortar and crush them. The best thing about being allowed to pound cocoa beans is the chocolate smell that curls up to your nose. We put the crushed cocoa beans into a chocolate pot, while Mama boils the water, pours it over the beans, and adds sugar. I set out the cups. I think hot chocolate is the most wonderful drink in the whole world, unless there is an ice schooner in the bay. When a schooner comes, Papa drags his canoe to the river. It took a long time to hollow the canoe out of a log, and Papa's very careful never to drag it over a rock. We pile the sacks of dried cocoa beans into the canoe, along with a heap of coconuts and bananas. I climb in between two bunches of bananas as big as I am, settle my best conch shell between my feet, and we're on our way. Papa carries me up the side of the ship on a rope, and one of the sailors leans down to lift me over the rail. Other families have come, and Papa must wait his turn to trade with the captain. Clutching my conch shell, I search the crowd for the sailor named Jacob, who once showed me pictures of his faraway country. He spots me first and says hello with a big smile. I show Jacob my beautiful conch shell and let him feel how smooth and pink it is inside. He shows me a picture of a girl, just my age, with a ribbon in her hair. Then he pulls a small square bag with stitching on it from his pocket. Jacob holds the bag to his face, sniffs it, and smiles. I sniff it too. It doesn't smell like chocolate or jasmine or papaya or anything in the world. It smells strange and wonderful, and now it is mine. Papa trades too. I know he must bargain for a bolt of cloth, but I hop with pleasure when I see what else Papa has traded our cocoa beans for. Ice. The sailors lower a block of ice into our canoe, and Papa covers it with banana leaves. Then they hand me over the rail, and when I am settled, one of them passes down the new cloth. I put it carefully into a dry basket. Holding the bag with the wonderful smell safely in my lap, I wave goodbye to Jacob, the marinero. When we get home, Mama scoops sweet white pulp from a rich cocoa pod and beats it smooth and soft. Then she shaves the ice, stirs it into the cacao pulp, and pours it into a cup for us to drink. Cocoa ice is white and sweet and so cold I think it must be magic. It slides down my throat and makes me shiver to think of children living in such an icy place. Ice. Ice schooners come from a land where the water is so hard that people walk on the river. Right on the river. This place where water turns into ice is called Maine, and I know all about it because the sailor Jacob showed me pictures. In Maine, the people build cooking fires inside their houses, and the trees don't have any leaves. And now I know another thing about Maine. I know that it has a wonderful smell. I sniff my balsam bag and try to imagine a land where children walk on rivers of ice. Winter grips Maine hard. The days are short, bright, and so cold that sometimes nothing moves. Not the wind, not the birds, not even the river. But our kitchen is warm. Mama bakes apple pies in the big stove, and I practice my stitching by making a balsam pillow with fir needles. Papa and Uncle Jacob work for the ice company. If they can fill the big ice houses before spring breakup, Uncle Jacob's schooner and other ships can carry pieces of Maine winter to sell in hot countries far away. That's why we worry about snow. Papa and Uncle Jacob and I stand on the riverbank, stomping our boots, watching snow fall on new ice and worrying. "Figure it'll hold?" Papa asks, looking over the thin sheet of ice. Uncle Jacob doesn't answer. They both know that the air in the pockets of million snowflakes will keep the river from freezing. And unless the river freezes, there will be no ice to sell. But this ice is new and too thin to scrape. It has to be tapped, if it will hold the weight of a man. We watch Uncle Jacob slide a wide plank onto the snowy surface and step out onto the river. It holds. Soon, a line of men follows Uncle Jacob. They inch forward, tapping holes in the ice with needle bars and mallets. River water seeps up through the holes, turning powder snow into a soggy slurry. If the weather stays cold, the icy water will freeze solid, thick enough to support a horse. Horses are important once the ice is thick enough to scrape. After every snowstorm, Papa and Uncle Jacob harness our teams to heavy snow scrapers and clean snow off the river so the ice can freeze thick and clear. From Augusta all the way to Merry Meeting Bay, men and teams scrape snow to help the river freeze. One morning, when the sky is clear and there is no snow to scrape, Papa takes the wheels off the wagon box and puts the runners on. Mama bundles us in extra hats and mittens and tucks us into a pile of hay under a heavy quilt. Riding in a wagon on runners is like flying. We fly upriver clear to the falls. It's so cold that by morning the river has frozen much more than a foot thick. Time to fill the ice houses. I watched the ice boss rule a straight line across the river as though he were getting ready for a giant arithmetic lesson. Papa follows that line with the big ice cutter. The cutter's steel teeth slice through solid ice as easy as a knife slicing through Mama's apple pie. But Papa is careful not to cut through to the water. The ice has to stay solid enough to walk on until the whole surface has been grooved and cut into blocks. Back and forth they go, grooving and cutting until the river looks like a giant checkerboard. Only all the squares are white. "50 men are at work on the river today, grooving, cutting, sawing, and barring off blocks of ice, floating them across open water, pushing them into place on the elevator chain that lifts them toward the open door of the great ice house. The upper doors are higher than the roof of the church, and the ice boss aims to fill it to the rafters before breakup. I watch until I get so cold I have to run into the kitchen. Mama makes hot chocolate to warm me up. Ice isn't worth anything unless you can get it all the way to summer without melting. That's why ice house walls are built double. 2 walls with a wide space between, filled with sawdust to keep the cold in. That's why even ice house doors are built double and filled with sawdust to keep summer out. And why we insulate the ice with a blanket of sweet meadow hay. When Uncle Jacob cuts the bales open, the green smell of summer meadows spills from the hay and fills the loft. The men fill the great building 1 room at a time, lining blocks of ice up in perfect rows, straight lines of ice that reach from wall to wall and rise in towers until they almost touch the roof. After the ice house is full, the boss closes the doors and waits for the river to break up. No matter how cold winter is, summer always comes. New grass in the pasture feels soft on my toes, and schooners come back up the Kennebec. Sailors fill the holds with ice, pouring a thick layer of sawdust all around as they stack it, and covering the sawdust with hay from our meadows. Mama says ice from our river goes halfway around the world in ships that come home filled with silk and cashmere, ginger and tea. But the most important ship of all is the ice schooner Uncle Jacob is sailing on today, bound for Santo Domingo to bring home chocolate. I give Uncle Jacob the sweet-smelling balsam pillow I made to carry with him to the island of always summer, and wave until his schooner disappears around the bend. I can't stop crying. Mama says, I think this would be a good day to make ice cream. Opening the ice house door in summer is like stepping into the castle where winter fell asleep. It's dark and cold, and the men wear hats and gloves and woolen leggings even on the hottest summer day. They're busy moving ice into the holds of ships lined up at the wharf, but not too busy to set a frozen chunk of winter into the back of our wagon. Mama measures cream and sugar into the can of the ice cream freezer, while I carefully pour in the cocoa. Papa chips the ice and packs it around the can with layers of salt. Then I start to turn the crank. It turns easily at first, gentle strokes swirling chocolate, cream, and sugar round and round the dasher. But as the cream begins to freeze, my arm grows tired, and the crank turns slow and slower until I can't turn it at all. Then Mama takes over and cranks until the ice cream is so hard the dasher won't turn another inch. When that happens, Mama sets the can on ice to keep until dinner and gives me the dasher to lick. As I sit on the kitchen step licking chocolate from the ice-cold dasher, I close my eyes and imagine the island of always summer, where giant pink seashells line the beaches and children pick chocolate from trees. And here is a map of the schooner's trip. So Maine is here, and Santo Domingo is down here in the Caribbean islands. So the schooner travels from Maine through the Atlantic to Santo Domingo, and then back up to Maine. And that is our story today, Cocoa Ice.